The dawn of the 19th century saw the growing development of Swickley as a small village where travelers on the Ohio River would stop at one of several local taverns to rest and replenish, and neighboring farmers could come to shop, sell their goods, and worship. Methodism had arrived in the Swickley Valley around 1801 when an itinerant minister, the Reverend Thomas McClellan, began preaching in the home of Jesse Fisher. By 1818, a log church on Division Street had been built where both the Methodist and the Presbyterians from the area would hold services until the Methodist First Frame Meeting House was built in 1839. This first church came about largely through the efforts of the Reverend Charles Thorne, the Reverend James Gray, and John Garrison, who was the Sunday school superintendent for many years. Situated on the grounds of our current location at Broad and Thorne Streets, it was built by Bruce Tracy with assistance from Mr. Garrison, and later accounts of the structure described it as a very neat, comfortable building measuring 30 by 40 feet. By mid-century, Swickley would soon be incorporated as an official borough with an estimated 30 homes, 2 schools, a number of stores, and several more churches. These churches were the main social outlet for the people of Swickley, whose weeks were filled with long days of hard work. Methodism was particularly successful here, as Daniel Nevin, a minister of the Presbyterian Church, acknowledged when he wrote, "Deep religious feeling has pervaded the valley through the last month. The Methodists had meetings for a fortnight or more every evening. They numbered, children and backsliders inclusive, 140 conversions." With the increasing membership, a larger church was needed. Mr. David White, a trustee and lay leader, led the effort to raise nearly $4,000 to cover the cost of a new brick church in 1853, and the Reverend John White became this new sanctuary's first preacher. Membership in 1855 was listed at 139 members, and the pastor's annual salary was $310, which is about $8,000 today. Over the next 25 years, the congregation would continue to grow to over 1,000 members, and once again, plans for a new church were prepared and various designs were considered. The Reverend Charles Thorne bequeathed $15,000 toward the building cost, on the condition that the congregation would match that amount. In 1881, the last service was held in the old brick church. At the same time, Albert Moore, a great-great-uncle of Carol Ford, began building a chapel at the back of the lot which we now know as the Simpson Room. During the interim, between the brick church being demolished and the new chapel and sanctuary being completed, congregants were invited to worship in the Moore's home at 328 Beaver Street, where Cole's Funeral Home is now located. The cornerstone for the new sanctuary was laid on July 25, 1882, and it is in this same sanctuary that we worship today. Designed by the Pittsburgh architect James P. Bailey, it took 2 years to build and cost $45,000, not including the organ, clock, and bell, which were later donated by Judge J.W.F. White. This translates roughly to about $1.1 million by today's standards. The Swickleyville Methodist Episcopal Church, as it was known then, is located at the exact geographic center of Swickley, further testifying to the importance of the denomination within the town at the time. It can be seen plainly from any direction within the village when it was built, and even today the steeple can be seen towering over Swickley from several vantage points across the river. This bell tower houses the official town clock, which was purchased in 1883 from the E. Howard Clock Company of Boston, the same company that installed the Kaufman's clock in downtown Pittsburgh. It was reported that Judge White was instrumental in making sure that the church had a clock in its tower, and this clock has been in continuous service since 1884, with the exception of a period of time when it was being modernized. Originally, the clock was operated by weights, which were cranked up manually once a week. It was then converted to electricity in 1919 and has been lighted since 1949 so that the clock faces are illuminated throughout the night. The bell in the tower was also purchased in 1883 from Clinton H. Manili and Company out of Troy, New York. On one side of the bell is inscribed this verse from Psalm 96, "Let us sing unto the Lord, let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation." In 1949, a carillon system was installed in the steeple, and today, after several upgrades, the chimes ring clearly throughout Swickley twice a day. In 1963, the clock tower was in need of some major repairs. It was decided that the extensive overhaul would include covering the beautiful wooden arches, fascia, and turrets with white aluminum, drastically altering the look of the church. Fortunately, when a complete renovation of the steeple and clock became necessary in 1995, the tower was restored to its original beauty as you see it today. Within the sanctuary itself, stained glass windows were placed over the entry at the back of the church in memory of the Reverend Charles Thorne, Mrs. Nancy Way, and Mrs. Martha Porter. Tall geometric windows, 12 on each side, are paired in various colors on each side of the walls to represent the 12 disciples. There was a time when children who were getting ready to join the church would have to find a list of symbols within the church and identify their meanings. Many of these symbols can be found in the memorial windows, where we see the crown and cross, the wheat and grapes, and the anchor. A pipe-amplified reed organ was also purchased at the time of the new sanctuary's construction and was used in this sanctuary for 25 years. In 1909, it was replaced by a pipe organ purchased from the Moeller Organ Company. Andrew Carnegie paid $2,000, or one-half of the cost of the organ, for the church, making it one of several Carnegie organs that can be found in western Pennsylvania. This organ would serve for 57 years until a new Teller organ was installed in 1966. At that time, 6 additional ranks of pipes were added for a total of 1,792 pipes. This Teller organ is still in use today and utilizes all of the original Carnegie pipes. Although there have been some alterations over the years, the sanctuary is largely as it was when first constructed. Among the changes made were having the floor inclined and putting electricity in the sanctuary in 1909, rearranging the pews to form a center aisle in 1953, digging out the basement underneath the sanctuary by hand to make room for the Sunday school rooms from 1955 to 57, and hanging the chandeliers which came from a bank. In the 1970s, the sanctuary was carpeted, the pews were refurbished, the center steps up to the altar were added, and the large cross hanging over the altar was designed by Bob Graham and made by Risa Shaw, a shop teacher at Quaker Valley. Construction of a new chapel at the entrance to the clock tower took place in 2001, and overhead projectors and screens for the contemporary service were installed in 2009. Since 1884, this sanctuary has been a place where people could come, hear the Word, and worship their God. A lot of meaningful ministry has taken place within these 4 walls, but this sanctuary has also been a place where the people who have crossed its threshold have been nurtured and inspired to spread what they've learned here with others. Service to people beyond this sanctuary has taken place regularly throughout the years by members eager to share God's love with their community, nation, and the world. As we gather today to worship God and to celebrate the 125th anniversary of the building of this sanctuary, we take pride in the beauty of the structure, but we also rejoice in the variety of ministries that have been spawned from within these walls, and we acknowledge our gratitude to the many who came before us, entrusting us with the care of both this sanctuary and its numerous ministries. Today, 125 years after this sanctuary was first constructed, we remain the church with time for you.